Hey guys, I'm Todd. I recently just got back from NodeConf, and a lot of people there, while doing Node, also happen to be doing client-side frameworks, which is really great. So I was talking to a lot of them, and everybody seems to be rolling their own framework, and including myself included. And I've been thinking about this for a while, and it just seems like we're definitely missing. We're trying to solve some problem that not everybody sees. So this is my thoughts on what the actual problem is, or at least one of the problems that we're trying to solve, and what we can do about it. So this is why your client-side framework deserves a build chain, and that URL down there is where you can find the PDFs of the presentation. So great. So the crux of the problem. So UI elements, they're awesome. They allow you to do custom methods, have custom properties and attributes, as well as fire custom events in the DOM, which is not always possible in our browsers. It turns out like IE6 fucking hates our custom events. But it allows you to have things like chosen right here, which is it's a very, very beautiful way of converting a very vanilla select box to something beautiful, which allows you to do auto completion, stuff like that. And then there's also the multiple selects, which allows you just to even more just like type in, have a regular keyword basically. So those are really, really beautiful. And a lot of people obviously appreciate those. So what jQuery did back up until now, it's inclusive now actually. It's just been great for that. It has the plugin system, which allows you just take anything and just hook it right to jQuery. Maintain all your UI, maintain all your event handling and methods and all that good stuff, all through jQuery. And it captured this very well. Chosen actually is a jQuery plugin, but there's tons and tons of these plugins out there. I'm sure you run into them. State pickers, select boxes, obviously, forms, local storage stuff, and etc. The list just goes on and on. So what is the source of the problem? So back in the day, we had server side. Everything was done server side. Um, so you would have your MVC framework on the server side. You'd be doing your thing, chugging along. Request comes in, you take it. You go to the controller that's requesting for that loads any subcontrollers or whatever. Those run their views, and you take all those views and start breaking that. You would have your views broken up because that's a really nice paradigm because it makes everything modular. But ultimately, you can also nest them together. So what happens though in the end is that one controller, it only sends one response in the end. It's really just here's your HTML, bro. Just go do your thing with it. And then once you get to the client side's like, ooh, nice HTML. So it uses it, and then it just renders it. You tell it to render through all these jQuery widgets that you have set up, and it just everything works. You've done it once, and you don't need to worry about ever doing it again because that was your request and that was it. And it takes your bland HTML to that super awesome UI such as Chosen. So recently we've moved to the client side. So what is the problem? I mean, like, there shouldn't be one because, like, views still work the same. Nesting still works the same. We got parsers and stuff for that. But the one call for beautification that has not been lost, like totally gone out of thin air. So we every time we render in the controller, we need to tell it to process through each of these functions again. And that obviously is not preferable. It's not dry at all. Nobody likes being redundant to themselves in case, and especially if something changes or you want to add a new feature to everywhere. It's really annoying. Um, so the natural thought is to combine the rendering of all these things together to make an immediate beautification and just have it standardized as one flat function. And this I call this a build chain. Other people argue that it's not really, but it's really just a semantic argument. Basically, you're just having the chain of functions, taking something like HTML and eventually passing back a document fragment or a jQuery collection. Um, so yeah. So seeing the forest but not seeing the trees. This is really where MVCs are starting to just solve for their specific case and not the general case. I mean, yeah, everybody has their own problems, but this is still something we can work through this together. We don't have to just go into box A or box B. We can make a nice layer above those, such as a builder. Um, so a build chain, sorry. So for here we have something like Backbone. Backbone doesn't actually have HTML as views. You still have templates like that, but you really shouldn't be writing objects to uh, to maintain all the events on those and then hooking them back. it seems weird because like the controller is where that data, where that logic really should be. Um, it's the view is just really it's just supposed to be just there. It doesn't really do anything except for interact with interact with mouse clicks and stuff like that. Um, and even then, it doesn't know what's going on when that thing happened. That should be abstracted logic. Uh, so Backbone, Knockout, kind of same thing, but just a different flavor. You have data binding hooks, which hook into the models because you have a very nice framework for that. Um, but that once again, you're using strings now and functions inside of the HTML. Just like it's sloppy, it's ugly. You should not be doing that either. Same thing with Angular, Ember as well. Ember goes back to the Backbones paradigm. Um, but the cool thing is like the next slide, you actually can build a UI element. I call them UI elements, but they're the jQuery widgets and stuff like that. Um, you can build one that just hooks into your, if you custom rolled framework, you could build one that just like hooks into your MVC. Um, and that's really what has gone on with Angular and Knockout. They've just had their own custom rolled thing, and it's a jQuery widget, just they haven't made it into one. Or at least to my knowledge. If there is, great, please comment about it. So the first time I was actually analyzing this problem, it I went too far. My first solution was a preprocessor for HTML. It worked great, except the problem was that you just didn't have this massive adoption rate. It wouldn't be. It was just too extreme for everything. I mean, here you go. You have a drop down tag, like a custom tag for drop down, and then you pass it through Mason.js, and it would render some divs and stuff with the classes, the drop down, but maintain all the styles and stuff like that. But yeah, this is just too far. So we need something. I need something more mainstream. So a step in the right direction. I wound up going with it. I finally discovered the build chain in my head, and it works great. You just have a function, you just call it once, and you pass it in like right here. We have the HTML template, as well as some data. So you'd have the function invoke it with the template data as you normally would. Then Builder just goes into its process and goes through Jade, or EJS, or whatever your favorite flavor is, and gets you actual just flat HTML, just what is to be instantiated. So then you pass that through as a string to a DOM parser, uh, or DOM, yeah, HTML parser. Sorry. Obviously, there's not one, but you can use jQuery or Mason.js for this. Um, and that you normally would be going through those steps in a classic framework. And you finally activate them as jQuery elements. Like this is how you're making it come alive. You are now finally firing events and stuff. And when you start seeing the code like behind it, you realize that like having that whole evented thing just magically there, you have like this whole new world of just possibilities for hooking into things and just everything just works well. You don't need to worry about just like, oh shit, did I forget to instantiate that? No, it just works. So ultimately, as I said before, we return a jQuery collection or a document fragment. So I'm not saying this is the perfect solution, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. Um, these frameworks like Angular and Knockout, they shouldn't be just a whole fucking framework unless you really want just only those functions. They should also have the alternative option where it's like, please hook into this method and we will automatically maintain your data for you. It should be just a streaming kind of thing. Um, so closing remarks. UI elements, they're really awesome. As you saw, chosen, beautiful thing. And they allow you to do custom events. Yeah, I already made that argument earlier. But client-side frameworks are still pretty immature. We're still learning lots of things, right? It has a long ways to go, but build chain definitely I feel it should be one of the core components or something similar to that. And that is why your client-side framework deserves a build chain. Thank you very much.